Beloved of Mother Akasha's family, I am Serapis May, and I wish to convey my love for all of you, students of life, who have chosen to grace this world with your evolving spiritual presence. Today, in this broadcast, I do not come to teach, rather to share with you a few short stories of my relationship with the Christ, that you may come to know the power of love that can attract the Master's presence to each of you. As many of you have come to know, I am the Master Guardian, the custodian of Jesus Christ's Ascended Master Retreat over Arabia. And this is where I am communing from with each of you this day. I am Serapis, and I hope that my little visit with you this day may bring our hearts closer together and may intensify your love for the Christ. Well, what can I tell you? Where do I begin? What can I share with you? You have already heard that the great love of St. Francis, although he failed to give that love to his own physical garment, the great love of Francis for Jesus Christ provided Francis with such powers that helped so many people during his time on earth. And my own great love for the ascended Jesus Christ drew such favor from him as well. Well, at least most of the time. I must admit that my love for Jesus the Christ was greater than my love for my own presence. Yes, I loved him so. And in the 2nd century after Christ's ascension, I was on the earth in another embodiment. He came to me. And I have had the name Serapis for a number of lifetimes. And he said, and this is after his ascension, he said to me, Serapis, I come to you this day because you have loved me with all your heart. And he told me some things that are just between the two of us. Then he said, now I must leave you, and I must tell you, I cannot come unto you again until your love of your own great God presence is equal, if not greater, than your love for me. Of course, being the young master in training that I was, my first words were, but, Master. The Christ stopped me and said to me, Serapis, you know better. You know I love your love for me. I will always treasure your love for me. Yet we all must obey the one great law. If my love for the Father was not greater than my love for the human race, then I could not have achieved what I had done during my time on earth. Now this was in the 200 years after his ascension, and he made it very clear to me. If my love for the Father, the infinite I Am Presence, was not greater than my love for those I came to serve, I would not have achieved the work I had come to do. Now I say to you, Serapis, if you do this, if you grow a love to your own great God presence, to the secret I am that I came to reveal, equal to your love for me, then I will come to you, and I will anoint you a gift. I will anoint you a reward that I feel will please you, and reward your love to me. And then in a flash, he was gone. Now, beloved hearts, I'd ask you to appreciate that I had been an initiate of metaphysics, of higher truth, since the ascension of our beloved Lady Nada, which was 792 years before the coming of Christ to the earth. So I, Serapis, was not new to any of these higher teachings, so I really couldn't come up with any excuses to the great master. So I knew, and I had to make peace with the master's request, and I said, "All right, great master, I will place you in my heart. My heart will continue to love you as I teach myself to pour my love to my presence." Now, beloved ones, I want you to know something. When I began to pour my love to my presence, and it didn't feel real to me. And I've studied some of your modern English, and here's one word I can come up with to describe what that was like for me. You've got to appreciate that since Christ's ascension, I had loved him so greatly for coming to the world and revealing the great mystery I am, at least to those of us who came to understand what the Master was teaching. Do you understand? So my love for him gained a great momentum over the decades. And so when I began practicing pouring my love to my presence, well, I have to tell you the truth. It really felt that I was faking it. And I'm using that word from your modern language, English language. I really felt like that I was faking it. And so I stopped pouring my love to my presence, as the Master Christ had asked me to. Well, soon I had another visitor. Another ascended being came to me. And you actually know him very well. At least some of you do. And he said, "Serapis, if you must fake it, then fake it. But keep doing it, and eventually it will feel real, and then it will be real." Now, who do you think that Ascended Master was? Well, I will tell you. It was Father Son. Many of you know him as Papa Son, Mother Akasha's twin flame. And so I have a very, very loving place in my heart for your beloved Papa Son as well. And again he said, "Serapis, in the same way that you have taken an hour without any distraction of pouring your love to Jesus, do the same. Pour your love to your presence, and eventually that love will build." And then a son said to me again, "Serapis, what is it? What is it that you can possibly think compelled Christ's presence to come to you?" And I thought to myself, and I said to a son, "Because I willed it. I willed it through my love of Christ. I knew that he could not deny my will because of the promises that he made. And I knew my will would pour through my love, and I knew in my own unique way. And I even said to him, very privately of course, to myself, I said to him, this is to the Christ, I said, "Christ, you have no choice. You must come to me. I love you, and I will pour my love without any distraction. And I know the law. You must come to me." And he did. Well, of course, I had conveniently allowed myself to forget the one great law of Source that creates all of us, that we must all first serve and love our own great God presence, the individualized and the infinite mighty I Am. So Papa's Son came, and he gave me some tips, as has often come to many of you in his classes. And then, 3 years later, the ascended Jesus Christ steps in through into my home and visits me again and says, "Well done, Serapis." And he said to me, "Serapis, I have now signed your name. Judgment Day has come upon you. and I have signed your name into the great ascension scrolls in Shambhala. And this means that I am your master throughout your resurrection and your ascension. Now today, all of you students now know your names, they too are written upon the great ascension scrolls. Anyway, when the Master revealed this to me, of course I became so excited. I jumped up and down and I started dancing all around the room. And then I realized that I had perhaps danced for 2 to 3 minutes, and then I felt a little foolish as I looked up and watched the great Master Christ watching me dance in the room. I felt quite foolish at that point, and then I stopped myself, suddenly frozen. And the Master Christ said to me, "Well, Serapis, it is fine to be as excited as you are. It is also fine to prove to yourself that you can control your excitement." So Christ provided me some very private study, introduced me to the sacred fire, and showed me that the sacred fire would come to the earth in a distant future as a great literaturist that was and is your William Shakespeare, and go on to become the great master Saint Germain. Christ revealed to me at that time that your beloved mother Akasha, Papa Son's twin flame, their dispensation, and the great work they would come to do in a not-so-far distant future. And so I dedicated my life to becoming fully enlightened. I was a single young man, and I knew in that life that I had not come to wed. I had not come to bring children into the world. And the Master Christ reminded me, and he said, "Serapis, if you want me to show you how many times you have lived and wed, and how many children you have brought into this world, you will see that you're not going to be missing anything by not doing that in this life. Because if you dedicate your life now to your resurrection, your ascension, then my reward to you for your dedication will be, I am going to place you as a new ascended master. I'm going to place you in charge of my ascended master retreat that I have created in Arabia." So with that, I buckled down to work, if you will, placing all of my attention upon all the studies the Christ had given me. You know, again, it was only 100 and some years since Christ's ascension, and I was in the body 3 times by then. I loved to come and go, and if I couldn't maintain youth in the body, I left it by the time I was 37. And so I was in my 3rd embodiment at that time when Christ came to me after his ascension. And when he came, of course, I retained the knowledge that he revealed. He revealed the mystery of those words of which God spoke to Moses, "I am that I am." So there was so much joy. And many of you, too, were there in those years that Christ was on earth. And all that Christ revealed, he shared with us, and he demonstrated what he shared. Christ had a wonderful way of demonstrating. He had a wonderful way with words. He had a wonderful way with his hands. And he had a wonderful way in which every word he spoke instantly created an image in our minds. And those of us who were his closest followers came to understand everything that he was teaching, all the words of Christ. What a magnificent teacher he was. For me, he was the finest teacher that ever was. Every word he spoke elicited an instant image in your mind, and we all. And I was not one of the chosen. I was not one of the disciples, albeit I confess that I got into the inner circle of Jesus Christ, back then as Yeshua ben Joseph. I got into his inner circle by begging his disciple Matthew to allow me to carry the sacred purse of coins, because the disciples made sure they gathered offerings from the people to support the pilgrimage. And Matthew had been appointed to look after those offerings, and I had convinced Matthew to let me carry the bags of coins for him. And this allowed me entrance into the inner circle, if you will. I thought at the time that was quite smart of me. Well, in one of our meditations, in the circle of the 12 palm trees, where we love to meet, Christ came up to me and said to me, "Young Serapis, I know your devious ways of getting into the inner circle of my family and my disciples. And it is a good thing that your devious ways of getting in here had a good and constructive desire behind it. Otherwise, I would never have allowed it. Do you think, Serapis, that I did not know that you were carrying Matthew's bags of coins so that he wouldn't be weighted down? Was really so that you could walk at my side and be at my inner circle. Serapis, you cannot hide anything from your teacher. Can you imagine having the great master teacher wagging his finger at you? So he knew me very well. And of course, he knew my love for him that was growing in my heart. And so, dear hearts, I was grateful that the ascended Jesus Christ, after my ascension, provided me the great activity of watching over his Arabian retreat. Although many of the retreats have been closed, or they only open when some of the ascended host or dignitaries of our solar system are visiting, and they would open and then they would close again, perhaps you are not aware that Christ's retreat has always been open since his ascension. It is well guarded by the great Elohim flames and the entourage of ascended masters from the fifth dimension who are known as K-17. The only human beings who saw the retreat in Arabia are those that we wanted them to see, if you will. And so, why might you ask, in being awarded as custodian, if you will, of Christ's retreat, why has that remained open all these centuries since his ascension, when most of the time he has not been anywhere near the earth, or even in the higher realms of earth? Well, you might well and correctly conclude that the ascended Jesus Christ still has not, as far as he is concerned, he has not yet fulfilled his ministry, and during his ascension and after his ascension. And since then, he has been giving many commands, issuing many commands. And every command that Emmanuel Christ is given during and after his ascension has always been in the name of the great central Son's I Am God presence, which is the greatest command an ascended being can make. There is no greater command than the great central Son's law commands. for it is indeed the source of our mighty universe and all life in our universe. So, in being the custodian, if you will, of Jesus Christ's retreat in Arabia, what I've been doing most of the time is receiving into his temple within the retreat, and it is a beautiful temple that is within the retreat. I have been receiving his own mighty unfed flame that he placed there long ago, and where I place the commands that he has given of life. I place those within the unfed flame, within the temple of Christ in his retreat. And I've been recording there, in the great sacred ether of the temple, every miracle that he has performed since his ascension, so that the mass of the people will one day know that he is true, that he is real, and that Christ is not somebody's fictional character. So, Arabia became important as many of the other sacred sites. And as Saint Germain, our great brother, has asked me to report to you, that as you well know for the Ascended Masters, the three areas of our planet Earth that are so important to the Ascended Ones. And they are the two areas in America known as the Royal Tetons and Mount Shasta. And then over in India, what is known as the Cave of Light. Now, Saint Germain has asked me to say to you that he will be using his authority, again as Ascended Master-elect this year 20 and 22, to raise Christ's retreat as the fourth official great area of Ascended Master importance upon the earth, so that all I have been collecting, the great commands to life that I have been storing there on Christ's behalf, can begin their release and fulfillment through those awakening now and who are seeking to achieve the higher states of consciousness, that they may lead humankind into the dawning of a magnificent new seventh golden age upon the earth, which, as you know, has now begun. Oh, my precious friends of the light, I wish you to truly know and to try to feel that Christ truly is so wonderful. He has grown into such stature, and he no longer even requires a body if he chooses not to use one. And you know, dear hearts, you may think that just because I am the Ascended Master landlord or custodian of Christ's retreat on earth, that I've seen him a lot. Well, no, I haven't. The Ascended Jesus Christ has been involved in activities of such great importance, and generally, through these 2,000 some years since his ascension, his movement has been from the great central sun, the great upper dimensions of the Ascended Master realms. He travels over to Venus, over to Jupiter. He has much activity of great importance in the great Arcturian system, the Orion system, and the Sirian system of worlds. And all his work is aligning with ascended beings of those systems of worlds, all preparing for the great future. And perhaps outside of the 19th century forward, back of that, perhaps maybe 3 times in 100 years, he would return to Arabia for some work to do, and of course to offer young Serapis his love and appreciation, which I always, even as an Ascended Master youth, always loved to soak in. So it is just wonderful. And you might ask, what is it like to have the Master occasionally visit his ancient retreat here on earth? Well, I can tell you that the Master Jesus is one of the most considerate beings in our entire universe. I remember the times that he visited from the greater realms of glory or the great central sun itself. Maybe you don't know that in the time since his ascension, a good half of the time he is living inside the great central sun itself. And that is a reward that even most great cosmic beings are not given. He has been living there much of his time, and the rest of the time he is visiting glorious realms of light throughout the cosmos. And he's requesting help for our planet Earth to ensure the new golden age unfolding does become permanent. The Christ is working on behalf of all of you, precious hearts, of all of us. I come from the earth, and I'm still in the earth, except I'm up in the retreat. In the times that Christ did come to Arabia, he would come as the great, glorious, majestic, ascended Jesus Christ that he is today. Beloved Emmanuel Christ, glorious, towering, magnificent, cosmic being of such luminous, eternal light. I myself have never seen an ascended being who can change his eyes like Jesus. And they can change, and they instantly do, according to the quality he is expressing. Most of the time, they are brilliant blue with the most dazzling diamonds within them. And other times, his eyes become a very brilliant green. When anyone sees, even the ascended hosts see the Christ, they are just fascinated with his ascended master eyes. And in times when he would come to Arabia, the great master would often say to me, "Serapis, come and meditate with me for a while." Yes, precious hearts, we ascended masters, no matter how high our evolution, yes, we too meditate upon the great God source. And well, the Christ, dear heart, with the Christ, and when he meditates, the only difference is he meditates with his eyes wide open. I remember once the Master said to me, "Serapis, I know you are ascended. I know you are a master of your own right now. Yet I invited you to meditate with me. And you're not meditating with me. You're watching my eyes." And I apologized, of course, to the great master. He has an amazing way about him. He looks, in meditation, he looks right into the great central sun. He doesn't even blink. How could I not? How could I not become so fascinated? Because they're watching his eyes, and he's looking straight ahead, right into the heart of the great central sun at the center of our universe. And his eyes transform. They become the deepest indigo. And then they become the most luminous light, with rays of light pouring out of his eyes, and with a touch of violet. And then the violet intensifies in his eyes, so that it would almost become that kind of neon violet that the great Master Germain has often spoken of. How could I not be in awe of this. For none of us had the power to change the quality of our eyes without first changing our entire physical vision. But to watch his eyes blend colors and watch the colors of Christ's eyes changing. And it is not he that is doing this consciously. It is because he has the power to meditate directly upon the greatest source in the universe. He has the power to meditate upon the Father-Mother presence in the great central sun that he loves so much. And to watch his eyes when he does this, they're the most beautiful eyes. If I were you, because I know that as an ascended being, in my eyes, they are beautiful blue, and I am decreeing that my eyes will become violet, dear hearts. And I say to you, they are the most beautiful eyes, violet eyes. And maybe, just maybe, after the 10,000-year cycle of this violet ray, this golden age to the earth is complete, perhaps this is the destiny of the people of earth. Maybe all of you will have violet eyes too, and we shall see. Yet to see the great Master, when his eyes become so piercing violet, it just melts you. Anyway, yes, he caught me watching him. So, dear hearts, even I, before my ascension and after my ascension, I often was spoken to by the great Master Christ in a way that he would catch me, always do so, yet he would always discipline me in the most loving way. And so it is just a great joy, just a great joy. It is great to have the Master visit his Arabian retreat occasionally. And often now the ascended Jesus Christ takes on physical body temples that are closer to the ones that he uses in his own homeland Golden Shrine Galaxy. Majestic, towering, a garment of such beauty that he could stand to the greatest of all physical garments, those being of the mighty Elohim, and he could stand with them equal in stature to their physical garments. Do you know it was the request of the infinite I Am presence of our great central sun that he discharge his physical garment that he ascended in and take on a garment closer to his own galaxy that he came from? For the Mother-Father presence wished to take his ascended garment into the heart flames of creation, where the great Elohim would study the perfection of that body garment that Christ descended in, and then use that as a replication garment for the future of humankind. I did not know that. Did you know that? Isn't that amazing? And then his decision to return that from the heart flames and to step into it. I suppose that is different language for you, isn't it? Forgive me, dear hearts, we do step in, and myself, I have 7 different physical garments that I use. And I suppose in the way that you step into various sets of clothes, we do the same, except it's not just a fancy, it's something that we choose to do. A lot of it has to do with the kind of work that we're involved in. Yet it is a thing that is commonplace for us who have gained our freedom in the ascension. So, dear hearts, now the Christ no longer requires to even use a physical ascended garment, if in his work it's not required. Oh, and please forgive me, for I have not shared with you that there are some of you who are listening to my voice. There are some of you here that were there in the time when Jesus was on the earth at the foothills of Bethany. And together we observed the ascension of Yeshu ben Joseph, our great master that we come to love. And so just to give you a few little understandings of why I loved him so much, and of course, after that, how close we have become. And now my desire that all of you become closer to the Christ. And if you like, me too. So here's the wonderful news for all of you who love him and remember him, because ultimately I've come to talk about the Christ today because I am the custodian of his retreat, and I've been gracefully chosen to watch over his estate. And so I want you to know, dear hearts, that this King of Kings, no matter the universal work he is involved in, continues to overlight and watch over all of us, and watch over all of you who have chosen Christ's path of resurrection, the steady rise into the highest state of consciousness, that being Christ consciousness. And I'll finish with this little message. Eventually, he's going to come to all of you. And he will come to you in the garden of your consciousness. He will come to you according to your state of heart and mind. So I, Serapis, I urge you to know him and to love him as I have and as I do. Yet, of course, first comes our love to our own great God presence with all our heart, mind, and soul. Representing the Christ, I, Serapis, remain in your service on earth. My dear friends of the light, Namaste, Namaste, Namaste.